Hey, welcome back to SoberNow.com. I'm Jim LaPierre. Today we're going to be talking about some of the most common causes of anxiety and how to cope with them. Anxiety is, well, I was going to say extremely common in recovery, but the truth is it's extremely common in our society. In any given year, the American Psychiatric Association says that up to 40 million Americans will meet criteria for an anxiety disorder. Anxiety disorders include obsessive compulsive disorder, post traumatic stress disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, agoraphobia, and a host of other phobias. And so most of those are tied to specific experiences and ways in which we learned to identify negative emotions and to cope with them. Now, if you grew up in a really healthy, happy family, chances are when you experience anxiety, it's nervousness and worry that is tied to something very specific that's happening in the here and now. For the rest of us, anxiety is often disproportionate to what's happening in the here and now. So the rational part of my brain knows that what's happening is not that big a deal, but emotionally it feels overwhelming, it feels devastating. And quite often we get frustrated with ourselves because we're caught in that disconnect of feeling overwhelmed and yet knowing that what's happening in the here and now is going to be okay. I mean, we're not always sure how, but in the grand scheme of things, we know it's not that big a deal. Or maybe it is a big deal, but we can't even begin to imagine, like, what's the first step in dealing with this. So the first step, obviously, when we're feeling overwhelmed is to break it down until it's manageable. I'm not going to change any huge problems all at once. I'm going to break them down into small steps. And hopefully the first step is I'm going to cope. I'm going to do healthy things that help me to feel better, things that help me to feel like I'm in control. And that's always going to start with my physical body, because anxiety really wreaks hell on our physical selves. So when folks are feeling super anxious, typically their breathing is very fast and shallow. They have a lot of muscle tension. They tend to gesticulate a lot. They tend to pace. And all of those things are unhelpful, obviously. But they're also things that we can gain control over. And if that's our starting point, it's going to work a lot better than trying to figure anything out or trying to process everything that we're feeling. My suggestion to folks is get yourself grounded. Grounded is sit down, plant your feet, breathe. Breathe deeply. Notice where you feel a lot of muscle tension. Release it. Sometimes it comes right back, but we keep letting it go until it's gone. We don't do our best thinking when we're super anxious. And if we don't feel like we're in control of our bodies, trying to control anything else isn't really going to work. So, your starting point for anxiety, get yourself grounded, get back in control of your body, and then slowly notice what you're feeling. One of the questions that I very commonly ask people is, let's stretch your imagination. If you weren't feeling anxious right now, what would you be feeling? Because that's actually a huge cause of anxiety. When we deny ourselves the right to feel sad, angry, disappointed, any of those strong negative emotions, stuffing those is usually what fuels anxiety. So notice what it is that you're really feeling in the moment, express it, cope with it, write it down, share it with somebody that you care about, and go slowly. Everything about anxiety makes us feel like there's a sense of urgency. We have to do things very quickly. Whatever it takes to make this go away, whatever it is I have to avoid or sacrifice or change, I need to do that, and I need to do it right now. And that's almost never healthy. It's almost never even manageable. So going slowly, doing things consciously, after you've gotten that heart rate down, is obviously going to work a lot better. One of the other common causes for anxiety, especially for those of us in recovery, the best way to explain it is fear is specific, anxiety is general. So when I'm afraid of something, it's a particular person, place, or thing. And I have some sense or some history about why I'm afraid of that. If I repress, if I stuff that fear, if I avoid that fear, it grows. And instead of just being, so for example, instead of it just being the large aggressive dog that bit me, all of a sudden I find that I'm afraid of all dogs. So avoiding, hiding, those fears become disproportionate to what's reality. And I need to be grounded, I need to be connected to myself, and I need to be coping in order to maintain that healthy perspective. So a few tips on how to do that. I hope that you'll be patient with yourself, and what I know is that if you're anything like me, you're not just in one form of recovery. You're probably in multiple forms simultaneously. For most of us, if we're overcoming addiction or an eating disorder or self-harm, those things are almost always rooted in past experiences of trauma. And anyone who's survived trauma is likely to have a certain amount of anxiety until they've been able to resolve their past, resolve their inner conflicts, and learn how to relate to themselves in a healthy way. The shortest version of which I call using the golden rule in reverse. Relate to yourselves the way you relate to others, kindly, with fairness, and with respect. I'm not a touchy-feely therapist. I don't tell people to go out and love themselves. I don't think that's real, or rather, I think it's an ideal that we strive towards. But if we can be aware, if we can be mindful, if we can be grounded, if we can express our true feelings without judgment, then everything's going to get better, and we're going to have less anxiety, and we're going to have less depression, and we're going to have more insight. We're going to have a greater understanding of what it is that we want and need, and we can solicit support and ideas as to how to go about achieving those goals. So, those are a few thoughts on anxiety for you today. I hope that you'll email me questions that you have about that, as well as topics that you'd like to see covered in future videos. Jim@sobernow.com. If you catch us on YouTube, I hope that you'll click the subscription button and give us a like and a share so that we can continue the conversation. And I hope you have a great day. Thanks so much.